It's good to see you today on March 6th. You may notice that I have a little bit of a nasally sound in my voice, a southern nasal. That's got to be terrible to hear. I'm hoping that you guys can get past this little bit of a gruff in my voice. I got something going on, and it'll, I record several days in a row, so it's going to be here in these recordings. But I want us to get to go on and do our lessons. And so I'll have a little bit of a cough and a little bit of a gruff, but we're going to get through today's lesson because today's lesson is so cool. Right? So there's a donkey and he talks. And I would love to see the faces of anyone who has not ever read this story or even heard this story. Because this is truly just one of those stories where you cannot believe this actually happens. But it does. And every time I read it, I'm still taken aback by the fact that Balaam never even bats an eye or even stutters and stammers when when the donkey starts talking. It's kind of the same thing with Eve in the garden. When the serpent starts talking, she just talks to him. So anyways, this story always just captures me, and it just shows me God's sense of humor, but it also shows me the length that God will go to get my attention. And so there's just lots of different points here for today's lesson, and they're kind of grouped together in the idea of the message, but also Balaam, some things that we can learn from Balaam, or Balaam. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but Balaam was a prophet, but he was a wicked prophet. He was a prophet for hire. So he wasn't a false prophet. He was just a prophet for hire. We see here that he did seek God, and he ended up doing exactly what God told him to do. But notice that he was willing to be bought for a price. And so, you have to take that with a grain of salt. Eventually, his true colors did show. He did do what God told him to do. But it doesn't mean that he was a true prophet in the sense that he was only willing to do the will of God. Because this obviously wasn't the first time that he was offered money and even accepted money, because Balak knew where to come. The king knew where to come. So this is a pattern in his life. But before we get to Balaam, I want us to talk about just a couple things here. Sometimes God, this is just about the message, sometimes God will speak to us through a donkey, and I'm using quotes, quote unquote, a donkey. And we will identify a donkey as a modern day unlikely messenger. Because we don't know how God's going to get our attention. It might be through someone that we don't even know, that we have a casual conversation with, a happenstance. I don't believe those. I call them God coincidences, that we have these moments and these encounters with people that we might not even know, but we have an aha moment in that conversation with them, and we walk away a little bit more wise to a situation. With a little bit more lift in our step in a situation that we might be going through. So we should never discount the message because of the messenger. The message might come from someone that we don't like, that we don't particularly get along with very well. It may come through a source of social media that surprises us. It might come in the mail. Who knows? But we have to understand, we have to evaluate the message and the messenger. But we also have to know the truth and the author of truth in order to be able to properly discern what part of this, if any, should I take and apply to my circumstance. I know that there have been many times in my life that I have written off a message that came to me because of the messenger. I had an ill situation with that person and I refused to listen to this person. Well, it cost me in the long run because God was working in the situation and he was working through that person. So I lengthened my stay, so to speak, in a situation that I could have gotten out of more quickly had I listened to the message from the donkey. Okay, let me move on. So there we go. That's the point on the message that I wanted to make. But here's what we need to think about with these. Again, following what Balaam did was sometimes we might be the messenger. Sometimes we're going to get a message, but sometimes we might be expected to be the messenger. And so we need to discern the message and make sure that we're not acting impulsively on our own accord and our own volition. Balaam's first mistake was that he let evil spend the night with him. They came and they slept near him and he entertained them. So we have to ask ourselves, what am I willing to compromise for what is right? I have been recently in a situation where I felt in my spirit that I needed to go to this person and tell this person something. And I wanted to so badly. And I just knew it because I was like, I'm right. I am right in this situation, and it's a good right, but I'm right in this situation, and this is going to be helpful to this person. And I would want somebody to tell me this. It's kind of like the toilet paper stuck on the bottom of your shoe, or the spinach in your teeth. It's one of those things where you want, and that I would want to know. So, thankfully, I used the restraint of the Holy Spirit. I leaned into the restraint of the Holy Spirit and said, okay, I'm going to park, I'm going to put my brake on, and I'm going to sit on this, knowing and that I have in my spirit for a few days. And sure enough, I didn't get a piece. I did not get a piece. I still really wanted to go tell this person about the spinach in their teeth. And that's really not what it was, but that's my example. But I knew that that's not what I was supposed to do. So I wasn't even going to entertain the conversation. Because I will tell you, the enemy could have used that for his good. And for his advancement in my relationship with this person. So I'm very glad that I didn't entertain evil. I didn't entertain any other thoughts from any other person, that I really took that before the Lord and said, is this something that you would want me to do? And if it is, give me some really good tact, because this could come off as being harsh and judgmental, not helpful. So I really prayed about it and realized that wasn't the right thing for me to do. But here's the thing too, is Balaam loved money more than he loved the will of God. The will of God was for God's people to be safe and secure and to pass through the land and to get to the promised land. And Balaam loved money. What do I love? We have to ask ourselves, what do I love more than the will of God? In my situation, did I want to be right? Did I want to prove myself right? Was it worth risking stepping out of God's will to have this conversation with this person? No. After sitting with it a couple days, it was not worth messing up that relationship and muddying the waters of communication that I had with this person and this good rapport that I have with this person. It's not worth it. So when you're a messenger, you have to make sure, am I flirting with evil here? Have I invited evil to camp out here? Is there some kind of ulterior motive that I'm trying to get in or show something, or what is my motive here? And then it's dangerous to be a messenger without the release of the Lord and the backing of the Lord and the assurance that you're doing the right thing and doing it in the name of the Lord. I mean, he was having dialogue in the name of the Lord with an enemy of the Lord. And so we have to be really careful. So many times I've been guilty of this. Well, I've prayed about this. And maybe I did, but I didn't wait around long enough to get an answer. And I believe the Lord has such and such, and I need to such and such with you. And really? How dangerous is that? To go somewhere with a message that is not ordained, that is not anointed, that is not approved in the name of the Lord. How dangerous is that? So we have to be really careful, girls, whether we are the receiver of the message from the donkey or whether we are giving the message to someone, that we are on the right footings in both situations. We'll see you tomorrow on Read Through the Word.